Welcome to We Speak Tangent podcast, where we talk to neurodivergent entrepreneurs. Welcome to this week's edition of We Speak Tangent. I'm Michael.
I'm Kat.
I'm Amelia.
You wouldn't think we've done 12 of these, would you?
Well, I'm not normally here. I just was expecting you to go next.
Normally the middle goes anyway. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Oh,
Sorry.
right, okay. Well, do you want to do that again, or are we just going with
No,
that?
we're good. That,
I will just go with that.
That's amusing. We're going to stick with that.
Got it, okay.
Was it?
We might
know.
do it at the end
Amazing.
just to cut it in. I don't know. So this week we are discussing, amongst other things, producer Amelia.
We are discussing overwhelm, meltdown, and burnouts, which I feel like is slightly. If we are a little bit eccentric today, this is probably
We're
why
all
we're probably
somewhere
on
that journey at
on
the
topic.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is rather method, I think.
Yeah.
This
This
too,
is like experiential
yeah,
learning.
This is too
Yeah.
close to reality.
Remember when we talked about modelling?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're going to try, and I say try rather than talk about our own meltdown, put it in a businessy context, I think. Otherwise, it's just an
Otherwise,
hour
we'll just
rant.
be ranting. Yeah, we'll be here till 6.
Okay, so who wants to go first? Because I can't think of a meltdown that I've had that's particularly anecdotal.
It's just going to be a scenario, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where we just go through our trauma.
I'm
mean-
not sure that I'm prepared.
I don't know. I think it's maybe.
Shall we define terms?
Yeah, I think so. Because as well, I think it's quite like I didn't realise it was a neurodivergent thing.
Oh, you thought it was normal?
Yeah, because I was always taught
Yeah.
like, oh well, everyone has struggles.
I think
You know.
there's different flavours.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Do you want to define the terms, Doctor?
Not of medicine. Yeah, so like overwhelm happens whenever your brain has too much information for whatever reason. And then if you are constantly overwhelmed, and particularly if you're kind of burning the candle at both ends. So like if you are doing kind of 110% of what you're able to do every day, like your 110% will become your 100%, will become your 80%, will become your...
Yeah.
Until you get to a point where you have a skills breakdown, and that's burnout.
Or just a breakdown.
Well, yeah.
I'm not sure any of my breakdowns have been
You go
skill-based.
through a little bit of burnout before you get to breakdown.
Yeah.
Just to,
just to sprinkle the skill over the breakdown.
Some of us try to push through longer than we should.
but wasn't there a thing, and you'll definitely know the information more than I will, but that like a neurodivergent burnout, you take 3 to 5 years or something to recover.
Yes.
Like
Yes,
it's such a
because
long...
you go into so this is the thing with like trauma and burnout and things like that. So and meltdown. So a meltdown is just when you're emotionally, physically, and or mentally too overwhelmed to function, and sometimes that's that is just your nervous system being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that can happen because of trauma or, because there's a lot going on in your life or because you're learning something and it's too big a jump for you or whatever. But I think neurodivergent burnout becomes more complicated when society doesn't accept the reasons that you're having that meltdown.
But also as well to touch it, because my morning, for example, I was very close to a meltdown.
This morning.
This morning,
Yes.
Well, we're filming this at the wrong time, viewers. We should have.
Should have done it earlier, yeah.
We should have.
I was very glad that I was sat over there next Wednesday. But that was just like maybe the ADHD, everything at once, sensory, panic, time.
Yeah, it's when there's more going on than your brain is
stuff.
able to process.
Yeah, but that's then like an acute
I
overwhelm.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the meltdown, like, if you can say, something like 2 people in my family died, and I now can't function. society will understand why you're having a meltdown.
I see where you're
Right,
going.
But
Yeah.
if it's like I was in the office and somebody happened to move the coffee maker closer to my desk so it's louder,
That was
and
me,
also
by
the
the
lights
way.
were on. Yeah, I loved having a coffee maker right next to my desk, but I don't know why that came out of my head. But yeah, so like it, or you know, there was somebody new in the office and they were on the phone and they were really loud, or somebody had a meeting, they were talking, and like those things, society accepts less as a valid reason to be having a meltdown, and also until we learn about ourselves. We often don't recognise that either.
Yeah.
So we will also be there saying, well, you should have been fine. Why did you not just push through? Why did you have a meltdown? That's so stupid, etc., etc., etc.
I mean, at the risk of sort of reverting back to type, because I mean, friends and family have said about me that when it comes to these podcasts, I don't appear to know an awful lot about any of the things. But again, it's a complete shock to me that this is happening. But which is probably, I mean, let's be honest, true. But I've never had a breakdown and then went, oh, that's a neurodivergent breakdown. To me, a meltdown, a breakdown, a sort of collapse of all function.
Yeah.
I've never been able to look at it rationally and go, oh, the reason is because not as an adult, as a child, I had to just wait for birthday parties until somebody actually said, Michael hates singing Happy Birthday. He hates being in the room.
Anybody likes singing Happy Birthday?
Well,
Because it's
apparently,
always
yes.
awkward.
Apparently, yes, you
I
see.
think they're lying.
Well, I know
Because
they
what
are.
do you do
but-
if everyone's singing Happy Birthday at? Because it's not to you, it's at
You
you.
contemplate the wish you're about
And
to
you're
make.
being attacked by a giant cake, and you're just like, hurry
In
this
some
up.
cases,
I
literally,
want to eat Colin's face. Quick, just skip to the
Yeah.
input.
So yeah, I mean, as a child, I mean, I actively tried not to be invited to birthday parties because when I was growing up, it was a very American model, and my mum is guilty of it. Everybody would get a goodie bag and a cake and a
Yeah.
tissue. And
Everybody does that now.
Oh.
I
Tissue stops the cake.
don't like. It's just it is a lot. Like I had one birthday party and I spent it hiding under a desk upstairs, and never had another one. But yeah, no, like birthday parties are an expedition, man, these days.
But I mean, yeah, and it's an expense, obviously. But that was the sort of childhood meltdown, I think. And I don't even think it was a neurodivergent. It was just a sensory thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've never, I've never looked at any form of communication breakdown I've never been able to pinpoint it, but I understand why people do.
That's what I did this morning, because it was a case of, I had loads of time. Obviously, I always leave loads of time, but I just couldn't find. I had an issue with, like, I'd got all my equipment ready the night before, so everything was charged. But I was looking for like a key thing, didn't fit in the bags, and had to get everything out. So like I knew why I was overwhelmed and why I was on the verge of a meltdown. Like it was things everywhere. Like the whole room's now a mess. I can't find a thing. There's a potential that I could be late, which I hate being late. So like I could analyse it
Yeah.
and calm myself down, try like twist it into being a good thing of like, hang on a minute, let's just collect all the mess in one spot so it's less overwhelming.
Which I think is why like I talk about all the canaries and stuff, because
Yeah.
the more you learn about yourself and about how things build up for you, the easier it is to catch it.
Yeah.
And the more you can kind of say, I'm going to be doing that thing and that's going to be draining, so I need to do X, Y,
And
Z
you know what the
after.
best bit is, folks? This is before we actually get to work. So we haven't even got to having the
Yeah.
meltdown at work. This is before, with respect, and this is my understanding phase. This is before we've actually got to our place of employment.
When I was working and I didn't have a uniform, that was our daily meltdowns about,
What, choosing what
because
you
you
had to wear.
didn't have a uniform.
yeah, like
Yeah.
what do you wear? What do you put with what? Like, does it look stupid? Like,
Pressure's
are
on.
people going to judge this? All of that.
See,
Yeah.
I
hated
quite
it.
liked that, but I also worked in retail, so like we had this amazing thing of like such a supportive team of people, but like you could chop and change your outfit, and like people would like, I don't know, it was such a.
I
very
like
lucky
the
in that
freedom,
bit.
and like I like the freedom now, but I think
At that point,
I'm less judgmental of myself now as well.
Yeah.
And I have decided that I get to choose, and I
Yeah.
don't need to second guess everyone else.
I couldn't deal with going to like an American secondary school, and they have to like it. Do you think like at that point in your life, that's just another thing, because I definitely would feel it then, of the being judged, and also something, because it's something else to think about.
But even
isn't
with
it?
a uniform, you were. Like, because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had, you know, like, because we had, so when I was at school back in the olden days, before, when you two were little,
Oh yeah.
we
Oh yeah, we're so young.
I resent that. I've always been old.
we had tammy bootleg trousers.
What are you
Etam.
talking about?
Etam, right? Yeah,
God,
and
that place was
tammy
great.
bootleg trousers were the thing,
Yeah.
and you had to have them, and I did not have them.
Ugh.
Until somebody gave me them secondhand, and I thought, you know, this is going to be the time. I
Yeah.
have the trousers now, but then it was like, you have secondhand ones,
Oh.
and it was still a thing. And it's like, and then it's, you know, how do you wear your tie? Do you have your
Properly,
shirt button?
hopefully.
Exactly.
Yes.
yeah,
No.
yeah,
What do we know?
yeah.
It was
Full,
like, you
full,
gotta do
full Windsor done up to the top, and exactly everyone took the piss because what everyone else was doing was they had the top
Short
two
ones.
buttons undone.
No, you have your ties are
That's
short
because
one.
you're the Avril Lavigne generation,
Yes.
round the waist, all of
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
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 Also, like, we'd pick threads out of the tie to make them look really cool. I mean, they didn't. And also, I'd painted Tipex lines on mine. And I remember
Yeah,
it
you
being in
see,
the school.
you
Is
would
there
have
a
been
crime,
sent
a definition
home
of a tie?
to
Is
build a new one.
Yeah.
To buy
Yeah,
in my school, it was
I
very
also
strict. You
had,
got sent
like-
to the office and you got sent home to dress appropriately.
No, I had like a blazer
Those were the days.
and buttons on the back, like Sex Pistols buttons,
Yeah.
so I could like flash the anarchy stuff, which some teachers appreciated.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
they were
good.
quite. Some of them were cool. Some of them, and also the ones that had swearing on, they were like, no, you can't have them. I was like, yeah, okay, fair play. But
I've obviously missed most of this. I'm just
yeah, but I was
like,
like an emo goth kid, like you know.
so you were depressed before you got there?
Yeah,
We
basically.
got
Got it,
to design the uniform at primary school. Because
Did
when I
you?
first went to primary school, we didn't have a uniform, and everyone just wore your clothes.
Is this because the school was really small?
Partly, yeah.
Yeah.
There were like 18 of us all together, I think.
Oh wow!
Like in
Okay.
the whole school.
Yeah.
There were like 9 juniors from like
Yeah.
P4 to P7. And then when I was in P7, they decided to have a uniform, so we designed the logo.
Oh, that's quite cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
So we've defined the terms.
Sorry, we've tangented quite
No,
a
no,
bit.
no, no, no.
Sorry, did we actually define the terms?
We've defined
So-
what a meltdown
So you
is.
become overwhelmed.
Yes.
If you don't manage the overwhelm, you have a meltdown.
Yes.
And if you don't do enough self-care to recover from the meltdown, then you burn out.
I think
That's what I
yeah.
was trying to get to.
Oh, wait.
Because so your nervous system is overwhelmed. So yeah, because you said about 2 to 3 years for recovery.
Yeah.
So your nervous system gets overwhelmed, and then that sets your nervous system into fight or flight, and then it takes a long time for that to recover from that.
Yeah, it
from
makes
that trauma,
from-
because
yeah.
it's like it might not be what people call a big T trauma, like a car accident,
yeah.
but the overwhelm of your nervous system is exactly the same.
That's crazy, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I would have to agree. Not that I'm a specialist or a doctor or medically qualified at all, but I would say some of the meltdowns I have had or some of the experiences I've had, I probably haven't recovered as a human
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
And I've probably, yeah, it's the other side of the coin. I've probably sort of been to doctors who, instead of sorting out the problem, have went, take this.
Yeah.
And it's made me
Right,
so like numb. I think it's made me so sort of, because the only way that if people don't know what a meltdown is, and doctors don't know what a meltdown is, it is essentially,
Lonely.
well, yeah, but it's essentially, let's just test, let's just chuck and see if this
See
works
what
or
works,
this
yeah.
works or this works. And
But that's even the thing now, like
Yeah.
that so many people will be depressed after a loved one has died, which is appropriate grief, but will be put on antidepressants. So it's like, oh no, you should be going back to work. Have some antidepressants
yeah.
and make you feel
This'll
better. It's
get you
like, no,
through, yeah.
you should feel upset.
Yeah,
you should
it's
feel
okay
grief
to sit
about
in
that. Exactly, it's okay to sit in that.
Yeah, but do you not think that's
Not for a long time.
pharmaceutical companies
Yeah.
wanting
Well,
to,
who's judging that though?
Well, life. It's
Don't-
Yeah, but there's
it's
no,
my dad. It's pay taxes,
You know, it's
born
like there's
die.
no
It's happened.
no. I was
When
gonna say
I
handout
when
for
I
grief,
lost my dad, it was a good year and a half
but then even then you'd still
to
feel
even
the,
learn to grow around that.
Yeah,
I mean,
still
I'm
feel it.
Like
wouldn't you?
it was a good year of you know, just every day, every kind of hour or so, they'd just be like, it would hit you again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got there yet, because both my parents are still in the land of the, you know, in the same boat as moi. But I'm sure that it will hit me when it happens, and it's the preparation for, and it's the fear of change, living what's around the corner, sort of thing. And I mean, I can't imagine how that is.
But then do you also,
At all,
as well,
no.
afterwards, is there a moment, did you remember feeling like a moment of like, actually I feel a bit better? Like, not to put draw it, make it seem down.
There was a day when, you know, you realise, oh, it's been the whole morning since I last thought about it.
Yeah.
And then I think, it's like, to make a tangent, the model that I really like is like when, you know, you start with grief, you have like a beaker, I'm a chemist, you have a beaker, and then you have a ball in the beaker and the ball fills the entire beaker.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like to start with. Like, it's constantly touching the edges. It's constantly like hitting you. And then gradually your beaker gets bigger as you grow around that.
Right, okay.
What happens to the ball within the beaker?
It stays the same size. So like
Sorry,
sometimes it's still touching the sides.
Right.
And sometimes you're able to focus on other stuff.
Yeah. Because I then wonder, I mean, obviously, maybe not so with grief, but I definitely know that there's a time in my life pre-pandemic, I was leaving a job and I definitely was burnt out. And I think it was, obviously, pandemic was crazy. And then I moved up here mid-pandemic, so that's also a big change. Funnily enough, like crazy change. But there was then a time that I remember, like, hang on a minute, like, I now feel a bit better. Like, I feel like I can just, like, and it wasn't for, like, maybe, like, till last year, a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and, like, I think with burnout, it's that thing of, because you get to the point with burnout where you're doing things that you used to be good at or you find easy and you cannot do it.
Yeah.
Because you get to that skills breakdown point where you are like constantly running at like 50% capacity.
Yeah.
Now we're hitting it.
And then that in itself is depressing.
Yeah.
And frustrating and upsetting.
Tiring.
And then, but yeah, so like you say, then you get to a point where you can do a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, but that's, it is burnout, and it is, but also for me, it's the fear of not doing it. It's the, like, I think, and this may be a slightly different, but I mean, if I can just try and bring it back to having meltdowns at work, I have had, I think, 2 meltdowns at work, but I've managed to mask it a little bit because, you know, the people that I want to impress when I'm at work, which is bosses and people who keep paying me, thankfully were not in the room. When
I think for me that's why the Canaries are so important for me, because it's a very different flavour.
Like, you're thinking you're going to say Canary Islands, and I'm like, yeah, great, let's go on holiday.
I know, yeah.
No, too many people.
Just Canary Island, just one.
Sorry, carry on. Just make myself like, see, sound.
No, you got to tangent it out like that. But because there's a very different flavour to having that meltdown and saying to yourself, no, this is bad, I need to mask this, I can't show this, versus you in your head saying, it's valid that I'm struggling right now and that's okay, but I know that I can manage it because afterwards I'm going to do this, or because I matter, or whatever is appropriate to your whatever thoughts you're having.
If I say to you that this is sort of DJ me now, so if I was to say to you that my meltdown isn't my skill base, it's the idea that to get to work and to get in the booth, it takes people to sort of get me to that point. And it'll never, my meltdowns are never, I can't do this or I don't want to do this. Although I will say that when you're playing to, I said this morning in a meeting for some reason, you know, if I'm playing to a room full of people and everybody gets it and everybody's
into it,
on it, there is nothing better in the world. If I'm playing to a table of people, I
who are not dancing.
I lose the will to just because you want the skill and your
You
ability,
want it to be appreciated.
but you want it to be there at a time where everyone is there.
Yeah.
And I think my sort of quest for perfection is it'll never go away. And I sort of want it to, and I sort of don't want it to. I've never been in a space, and it's the same with anything I'm doing, really. I've never been in a space where I've said I can't do something or I don't want to do something, but all my meltdowns have been either because I've sat on my hands for too long and not said anything and waited for other people, or I feel as if I have tried over. I mean, I've been within the third sector for 7 or 8 years, and I've tried not to show that. But I mean, if people knew what, and I think with mental health, it is happening. More people are talking about it. But I think if people knew the stress that, you wouldn't. It's not exactly a sort of sales pitch. Where, come and do this. Like your mental health will be tested, but people do the thing. So I think for me, to avoid the meltdown, I have tried to give myself time and permission to try and divert myself a little bit. Yeah. So, but there'll always be that confidence thing there. There'll always be, what if I don't want to do this? What if I don't want to do this? What if I want to do something else? Can I do something else? Who knows?
Do you put in, just to go back to your previous sentence, do you put action steps in, both of you? Because if you know that you're going into something that's slightly stressful, or you're already your heckles are
I do
up.
a cope ahead.
A cope ahead? What? That's just reminding me of Coca-Cola.
What's your
Cat
thing
gets the Barry Manilow out and just prays.
Amelia is fully on tropical island, pina coladas,
January.
all there.
What did you say? Cope ahead.
Cope ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
It's a DBT thing, which is dialectical behaviour therapy. So a cope ahead is where you identify the situation that might be challenging.
Right. Yeah.
You then write down why it is challenging.
Okay.
Neato down, guys. So
Well, just looking at the thing there. Try not to draw attention to it.
So for me, thank you. The
Nido up.
the dream rolls, guys. So
we've just avoided the meltdown. Quick, drop it again. We need. This is patron stuff. We need to actually price this out.
After last year's medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, right. Cope ahead. Yeah. So you identify why it's challenging. So like for me, usually it's like because something is triggering for some reason. So then I'll identify what is being triggered.
Yeah.
How that's likely to make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Then you put down your actual kind of cope ahead plan, which for me is usually I'll visualize it going well the night before.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that I've done my yoga nidra or meditation the night before, which I do anyway. In the morning, in the meditation, I'll usually at the end of my normal meditation, I will then visualize it going well again.
Yeah.
Then it's like in the actual thing, you can always do pace breathing. Guys, pace breathing is the way to go.
What's pace? Should we touch back on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just that there's a pace to it. So
okay.
So
I thought it was going to be
You nearly stopped breathing.
You do this, do that.
It's kind of a group term for some people will do box breathing.
Yeah.
I do coherent breathing, which is 6 in, 6 out.
Oh, okay.
But so there's a pace to it, whichever you fits best for your neurology and nervous system. So that's always on my list. And then things like take an Edo, or have notes written. So like if I go to a doctor's, I'll always have written down all the questions that I want to ask and things like that. So I'll have that plan, which is a bit like a safety plan, but it's like a cope ahead plan in advance.
Yeah.
And then you've got your visualization of it going well.
So important, like visualization. I've been watching a lot of stuff on TikTok, but the amount of visualization stuff that
if you visualize something, your muscles fire as if you're actually doing it.
I said that with exercise.
Yeah,
this is ages ago. But like, if you think about,
I think I'm getting further
running,
away.
Your muscles exercise.
Yeah,
that's my problem.
Obviously, it's not the same as if you went for a run. But
so because like now if you have like a leg intraction, for example, like if you've broken your leg,
Right. Yeah.
you used to get like really atrophied and stuff, but now they get people to visualize that they're like walking and doing strength exercises before they actually can, and there's less atrophy.
But that's a very measured way of looking at, if something happens, I do this. I don't do, with full respect, I don't do any of that.
But is that something that you'll then pick up? Like, not to the same extent, but you might be like, oh, okay, well, because you've knee-doed now.
Yeah, you're with the knee-doing.
We have the acupuncture rings.
I mean, no,
acupuncture
it's. I'm not sure if any of it helps, but what I do is if any of it does help me. But what
usually not all of it helps everyone, so you just have to keep trying stuff until you find what fits.
What I do usually is on the way to the gig, I sort of, in the nicest possible way, I sort of pray, and it's like, dear God, please let me not suck tonight. Please let it just sound okay, as busy as it could be. Just if I need some form of...
Just to be the meditation teacher in the corner, is that not visualising it going well?
No. It's not at all. It is just, please make sure that I don't get sick. Please make sure that if somebody,
That's all a visualisation is. You don't actually have to see it as a picture. That is you putting out into the world, this is what I want to happen.
Oh, yeah. But I mean... it does settle me down a little bit, but do I go into a gig with full confidence? No.
Do you have set lists?
I do, but I'm a bit...
and then you ad hoc a little bit?
Yeah, I ad hoc quite a lot.
Because it's fun.
Is it MP3? Are you there with vinyls and CDs?
No, I don't know. Well, if I had vinyls or CDs, I would be, there'd be suitcases behind me.
Yeah, that's true.
But I because I don't like playing, it's sort of anti-neurodivergence. Because I don't like doing the same thing, I will actively try and change.
But that's difficult with music because it's energy, isn't it?
It changes all the time.
All the time.
Music tastes change all the time.
But some songs just are always...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bangers.
But if you've got 6 hours to fill or 4 hours to fill...
Is that how long your sets are?
Yeah.
My God. Oh, hang on, yeah. Sorry, as soon as it's 8 o'clock, I'm in bed, so
I
forget that there's time. I forget that actually, if you're working till midnight and you start at 6, that is
No,
time.
no. So it's venue plug, 11 till 3 on a Friday.
AM?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And 9 till 3 on a Saturday. Yes.
At daytime?
Yes.
Is it not like daylight and stuff though?
Depending on the season, yes. And I have said to my wonderful boss that
what day?
Friday, Saturday. Yeah. But what
Going out, isn't it?
Yeah, but what people have started doing now? No, genuinely. But what people have started doing now is afternoon clubbing, which hasn't hit Dumfries yet, but in Newcastle and Liverpool.
Well, I mean,
mobbed.
yeah, in Liverpool,
to be fair, it's almost like doing like a pub crawl when you start off at like midday.
A lot of people go to Liverpool as well to catch the Hollyoaks people.
What?
That's where they shoot Hollyoaks.
I don't know. I had an image of one net.
Yes. Welcome to ND in action.
People to catch them there.
But yeah, so that's but that's what people do, and I think a big part of it is I don't drink or smoke, so I'm doing this, and I'm not going to start, viewers, but I'm doing this completely of my own volition with full, and I'm just like, there is that thing of, can I do something else? Probably.
But then I do think that's where being an entrepreneur.
That's a pretty cool thing to do, though.
But then it's like being an entrepreneur. You have got the time to change it up and do a little.
And also do more than one thing as well.
Yeah,
I have been known to do a crossword if it's not busy. Read a book. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But no, I think. Especially in a business context, I think that now the sort of entrepreneurial thing and trying to get other things off the ground.
I think that's probably why we are, as neurodivergent people, sort of kind.
Yeah.
Like that is why, as entrepreneurs, because you can. I mean, you try and juggle a few balls, but that's what keeps it exciting. That's like the dopamine.
I've had more meltdowns trying to format the idea that I've got now than I ever had DJing, ever.
Because
Ever,
it's
ever,
change.
ever.
Like
Rewiring your brain.
ideas
Yeah.
are fantastic and exciting, but they're change.
Until you do the
and that's hard.
Yeah.
And it,
But do you know what, like only in the last couple of years I've been really into the idea of change, which is it sounds
it's the only
really
constant
weird.
in life.
It is the only constant in life. And I think as well there was something I read and it was saying how like anxiety and excitement are very similar.
AA batteries.
Exactly, almost
Rewire
exactly
it.
the same
Yeah.
Yeah.
in your nervous system.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, okay, that's really daunting, but actually change could be exciting.
AA batteries, anxiety, adrenaline.
Yeah.
You're just looking to change at the right
Just a
time.
little bit, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. It's all about, all life is reframing it to coax your brain into something else.
Thank you, Amelia McKenna. That was very good. Thank you.
And you know,
Like Paul McKenna,
yeah.
like think yourself not
Oh,
anxious.
okay.
and but yeah, it's like
That's a book.
validating yourself
Penny
and
Bubble.
giving yourself that permission
Yeah.
to look after yourself, and also to look at your life in a positive light.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't quite done that yet. Oh, yeah.
That's your nervous system having a release, because that's challenging.
No, Kat, that's debt.
Can
I
we-
will not
can-
enjoy it
can
until
we
we're
not
out
go
of
there?
the stuff. Yeah, I know.
Keep it light.
I know. So, well, let's be honest. So, how can employers who... This is a fabulous advert if you want to employ anybody that's neurodivergent. How can employers or entrepreneurs actively help with the or with the meltdown? What are things that
I
people
think
could implement?
allow the meltdown.
Why?
Because your nervous system is overwhelmed. You are not in a logical frame of mind. Your thinking brain is switched off, and you need a minute.
I think that's so important, is that space.
Yeah.
Is like, and there has been a job that I worked at where like I was just pushed to the brink and I left and I never went back. And just me leaving was just, I mean, obviously that's not a really good thing for what you can do, but it was
A relief.
it was so worth it. And you know in yourself as well, when you feel, right, okay, cool, I've walked, and you're like, cool, I can breathe. Like, that's the answer, isn't it? And if that is the option of, I need space, I need to protect myself and get out, and you know that kind of is like, that's what I need, like, you just got to go for it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
You've got to reach a point where you think that me being in that space is detriment to health. And that's where, especially in the third and voluntary sector, that's where so many people sit.
But I think if instead of having that constant voice, you have to push through, you have to get on with it, you notice those canaries and were self-validating.
Yeah.
So like something that I do is, which I think I've talked about before, is I'll rate myself regularly. Where am I between 0 to 10? Where 10 is like meltdown. And 0 is, I call it the Dalai Lama line, like when everything's just cool and groovy all the time, nothing phases.
I like that it's all or nothing and not like halfway.
Yeah.
I would have thought the Dalai Lama line's about 5.
You very rarely sit.
Yeah.
But
Sorry
like-
to mess up your entire...
to go on to like window of tolerance of it all. So like if you are over 7, you're in trouble. If you're over 8, that meltdown is going to happen at some point.
And 9 is hospital.
But is there something that you then do
Yes.
to like that? Oh, hang on, we just talked about this. This is the you do you
Pace
implement-
breathing and stuff.
Yeah,
So like I'll rate it. So like if I'm over 6, then it won't just be me catching myself and going, oh, am I doing my pace breathing? It will be, I need to go and sit somewhere. I need to go and actually do like a little meditation or go for a walk or whatever. And then that will bring me back down.
But then, like, how long would you say that you need out to just reconnect? I'm going to use the words realign, because realign is quite nice. Like,
Fully, probably a couple of hours. But
okay.
you can't always do that. And,
Oh, it's
and
not a
also
5-minute
it depends
job.
where I
Yeah.
am. Like
no, I was
if
thinking like days.
yeah, it depends. So like if I've touched 7,
Yeah.
a couple of hours.
Yeah.
if I've actually had a meltdown,
Mm.
a couple of days.
Yeah, yeah.
But if I catch it at like 5 or 6, then I can bring that down in a few minutes. But
Yeah.
that took a lot of practice and
Yeah.
repetition. So like when I'm teaching, if I have that moment, and I do because I used to be a very nervous person,
You have
But
that
I
meltdown as
did-
you're teaching.
I did a lot of presentations. So I might, when I'm teaching, because I'll do all the preparation in my co-head,
Mm.
I'll come in at like a 4 or a 5.
Yeah.
But there'll be moments in there when you get that spike up to like 7 or 8 where it's like, oh, is everyone listening? Is this
Yeah, yeah.
interesting for people? Is this what people need? And
Yeah.
then you do that. I'll be like, I'll catch it. I'll be like, that makes sense. Let's do a couple of breaths. And then you're back down to like a 5 or somewhere
Yeah.
a 6 or a 5 where you can catch it and carry on.
So how, if you're in an employed situation, I'm just trying to sort of think how to ask the question without saying, at what point does the HR department get involved?
Never trust
yeah,
HR.
no,
They
never.
work for the company.
Yeah.
When you realise that you're
What can people do?
burning out,
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult. I'm like my first
loo breaks.
experience of burnout was I was in uni, and it was like the break between uni and like first year, second year,
Mhm.
and I was working part time, like 15 hours a week at Waitrose, and I was also working full time for free at a film production company on different sites, like different parts of London, and I was doing that like full time
Mhm.
as well as Waitrose, and I had to like get to Waitrose, which was like an hour and 10 minutes away, go home quickly, get my uniform. It was so
Yeah,
hectic
that's
for a
working at
19-year-old.
120%.
It was, and like because this internship was got to me via a friend of a friend of my dad's, I was like, I feel like I have to do this. And I remember
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got off, I was on the bus, the 65 bus to Kingston in the morning with all the commuters, which obviously is hell, and I got off in queue, and I just walked around in like a housing estate. Obviously, it's not an
Yeah.
estate; it's queue. It's quite posh. But like, I called my dad to like almost like ask permission to not go into
Yeah,
work.
that's
Didn't-
burnout.
Oh, it was 100%
Yeah.
burnout.
Well, that's fear rather than
Like,
burnout.
but it's-
But
How do I get out of
it
this?
becomes that because
Yeah.
your nervous system is just frozen and
Yes.
you cannot
just-
do anything.
And it was just, and then I can't remember what happened after that. Like, I still carried on working there, but then I was like, I need to not be working. And also, at like 19 years old, you just think, oh, I've got to do all these jobs, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that. You don't. You
Ah,
really don't.
Yeah, and I
19.
think, like you say, like you
All those years
learn,
ago.
I know.
you learn what your 100% is.
Yeah,
Because
well,
I
energy
think we go through childhood, especially as neurodivergent children, being
Yeah.
told that we should be able to do better.
Yes,
100%.
absolutely.
So you're always there's that drive of like, oh, whatever I think is the
Yeah.
most I can do is not. I should be able to do more. And I think then, you spend your 30s or your later 20s for the younger people, trying to work out where your level actually is.
Yeah.
But is
And
that,
how much you actually can do.
is
Yeah.
that society or is that
I think it's probably a
tiger
mixture, isn't it?
parenting, essentially?
But I think, like, at
Both.
that
Yeah.
point in my life, there was such a pressure as well.
Love
like,
you, mum and dad,
in-
but yeah.
especially if you want to work in the film industry, you need to have all these credits to
Yeah.
get, and you
Yeah.
need to have all this stuff, and you need to do this, that, and the other. And so for me, it was like, it almost was like, but I need to do this
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
order to get where I want. I mean, this was only between, like, maybe it was like second and third year actually thinking about it, because I was already in my stealing. But like, in order for me to get a job, I'm going to have to do
Yeah.
this.
So
So
that
the
was,
pressure's
yeah.
so on.
that was at 19. So at what point did you decide that this cannot continue? How long did you continue working at 120%?
I think I did it up until like a week before I went back to uni, and I still worked at Waitrose, and then went post uni life. I then still worked at Waitrose, but then worked in the TV world. So that was a full-time job in the week, and then I worked on Saturday Kitchen. So on Saturday morning, I'd get the car would come pick me up about 6 in the morning, get to set for like 7. We'd do a rehearsal, run through the show. I finished the washing up because I was a runner about 1, and then I got the tube, which was 3 tubes, and an overground to West Ealing. Went home, grabbed my outfit, my little hat and stuff for Waitrose, walked up the road to Waitrose, and then finished there at 9 o'clock at night.
Whereas I just watched Saturday Kitchen from home.
And little
It
did you
is
know
like-
there was
What
me
the
in the
viewer
background.
doesn't know.
Yeah, exactly. But no,
I
it's
did
like,
it for a
I
long
think as well,
time.
you can do things for a certain amount of time. And
Yeah.
if you kind of have to, or there's some kind of driver there, Like I remember I did teach at uni, 7 years ago? A while ago. And, you know, I was driving an hour, doing a full day of uni, driving back an hour, and then doing a night shift at McDonald's.
But then it's also this as well, that you don't realise that the commute, as much as sometimes it can be nice to be singing in the car for an hour,
it's a lot.
but it does drain on your body.
I mean, my experience at 19 was similar. So I was, by that point, I'd left boarding school. I came back to Dumfries. I was studying photography at college, which I had no interest in whatsoever.
I can tell after all the comments you make.
No interest at all. I was on crutches, of all things, so I was doing that, I think that was 3-4 days a week at college, and then I was producing radio shows and doing that in the evening.
Yeah.
So I would get the taxi in the morning from, I was living with my dad, which neither of us remember fondly. Because we never saw each other. So yeah, I went to college, got the taxi to college, and then I immediately got the taxi at lunchtime to a coffee shop if I really wasn't interested in it. And then I went to produce and be on radio.
Yeah.
And so it was, and that was, I mean, I don't know how I did it. Looking back now,
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah,
I do
100%.
wonder at what level of that, because I was also the same in school. I produced my own radio show and was doing that like every week. But like it's funny, isn't it, when you look back on it, of like, oh, so is it the naivety of the work environment, and you think, oh, you got to get all this stuff done? Really close to swearing then. Like it just is, or is it? I don't know.
it's the need to prove yourself.
Yeah.
You've got the sort of ND. You've got like the Neurodivergent starter kit. You know you're different. You don't know how.
You know you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Usually.
So you're
it's by that point
proving
in your
yourself.
life.
I've got this thing I don't want to do in the morning, but this afternoon, if I can make it there, I've got something I'm very good at.
Yeah.
And
True.
then you just do it, and then
That's always the thing as well, though, isn't it? Like
so
having
that you
stuff
can-
in the afternoon. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no. So you can come back and say
like-
to your parents, like, here's the
here's
thing.
what I've done. But it's then having the tiring thing of it, doing stuff in the afternoon, because then I can never get stuff done in the morning because I know that I've got stuff to do in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a nightmare for when I was working in the evenings, because you're like, you know that there's so much stuff to get done. Yeah, I've got something to do at 5, even though it's midday. I can't do it.
But yeah, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If I'd have known that, with full respect to the OU, if I'd have known that the Open University existed for me, I wouldn't have went to college.
Did they?
It did. No, it
The
did.
OU's been going for
No, it absolutely.
since the 60s.
Yeah,
or something.
it absolutely existed. But as an education option for me,
Yeah.
I came from boarding school, and it was funding dependent. So in order for the funding for moi to keep going, I had to study at college.
Yeah.
So if somebody had said to me with hindsight, look, you can do the radio thing, rest up a little bit, and do this sort of OU thing in the background and study something you're interested in.
Yeah. What would
That
you
would have
study?
been, I think even then it would have been something law-ish.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
didn't think you was going to say law.
Oh, yeah, I studied law in COVID times.
Oh, did you?
Did you not know that?
No.
Oh, wow, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I did. No, because I thought I was going to have a proper meltdown during COVID times. And I thought that, I mean, you have to be wired a little bit differently to go, in order to prevent a meltdown, I'm going to study law.
I did that in uni. I studied Latin.
Yeah.
But-
For fun.
But even then, I was very good at it, but the way that it was, if I don't say so myself, but I was very good at it, but the way in which people teach me needs to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that in any avenue that I'm in. I'm finding that with the wonderful people at Sussex. I'm finding that with the OU. It can't be like a watch the whiteboard and write down. You've literally got to, more time, and this is this because.
Yeah.
And you've got to sort of unpick it to put it back in place again. So, I mean, I look back at, I'm now 33, so I now look back and go, I could have done that differently, and I could have got far different results.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows
Yeah.
what happened? But
Hindsight's always a great thing.
it's a
And
marvelous.
then what would you change going forward?
I would have put myself in a position to continue doing some form of broadcasting. My biggest, it's not a regret because it's life, it happens. But my biggest thing is that I allowed myself, I'll try that again. My biggest failing with myself is that I was put in a position to not do the thing I'm good at. And I spent a long time trying to be okay at something that I wasn't immediately interested in.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that little sort of fuzzy feeling in the stomach, like
Yeah.
I'm good at this. He was like,
Yeah.
okay, well just, one potato two, like let's just do stuff. So
Hey, it's never too late. When did what's the phrase or something like Oprah didn't start doing, Vlad didn't
Until she
start
was 40
impaling
or
until he was in his 40s.
but yeah, if I'd have had
Louise Hay started her publishing company when she was like 60 something. I think.
This is it. Especially in today, I think this is where we are kind of really lucky. As much as I miss pre-technology era of the 90s.
I don't miss that at
I
all.
love it. Oh, I love to switch off and just be on CD. Like I love analog, but at the same time, it is we do.
We are so much more connected.
Yeah,
than we
there's so
used
many
to
more
be.
options, which can also be overwhelming and daunting.
But it's an escape. Technology is an escape for me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my TikTok hours are.
I haven't embraced TikTok yet.
Don't, you'll be on it.
I'm not going to.
You'll be on it for centuries.
It's a
But I mean,
conscious
like you
decision.
say, like, I've got friends on Instagram that I'm really close to that I would never have met in real life,
Yeah, same. Yeah.
and it's
But also,
it's
I
cool.
still connect with my friends who are abroad
Mm.
on
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah.
Every day
Totally,
I'm sending
same.
like stupid memes to people, but yeah.
So the goal is to not have a meltdown.
Oh
but
yeah, that's what we're
even
talking
if sorry, even if I mean this is going to sound like an odd question to ask, but then again it is coming from me. So can you have a meltdown if things are going well?
Yes.
about. Melt up.
Yes, because things are overwhelming. Things are just as so. An anecdote.
Good. Okay.
One of my very dear friends is a vet, and she told me about what they talk about with dogs, which she learned in a lecture, and I was like, that is exactly the same for people. So the idea is you have a sink.
I'm sorry.
And a sink.
A sink.
Yeah, and
Like
you
wash
have a hot
basin.
tap.
Butler?
Yeah.
You have
okay.
a hot tap and a cold tap.
That's a normal
And
sink. Yes.
A lot of people will bring a dog into the vet and then say, oh, I don't know why they're overwhelmed because I took them for a really nice walk this morning and played loads of frisbee in the park. And it's like, what you've done is you filled their sink full of hot water, which is quote unquote good stuff. But their sink is
Okay.
still full.
Right.
So you
Don't
can have a
put your
lot.
dog in the sink.
You can be overwhelmed
Yeah.
with things that are, bad or
Yeah.
unpleasant or whatever, and that can overwhelm you and cause a meltdown. Or you can be overwhelmed with things that are good, but they still overwhelm your nervous system. And also, if you've had trauma, quite often being happy is triggering.
Again, we've hit it.
Which is
no.
another problem.
Again, we've hit it. So one of my things is I must retain this thought system because if I allow myself to be content, happy, joyous, then
Something bad will happen.
will absolutely implode, and then you will spend the next 3 or 6 months sort of coming back from it. And I think, I've only been happy fairly recently, and it's a headspace I'm not used to.
And it's change, and it's uncomfortable.
But you are checking for trapdoors totally. You're assessing. You're trying to figure out where the known tragedy is, which is a horrendous way to live your life.
However, it's what
we know.
most people are set up for.
So,
But as I said to you guys, the other
Reframes
day,
are possible.
as Eric Idle so wisely wrote, always look on the bright side of life. I honestly think, having watched that as a teenager, she was probably 9 years old, child. I don't have that issue because I kind of do to an extent, anxiety's always there, but like I always try to then always look on the bright side of life. That's kind of my self-care.
Yeah.
To reel it back in, because I want to ask both of you what you'd class as your self-care to stop the meltdowns. But trying to reframe it into Monty Python quotes. Just always makes me feel better.
Yeah.
But you know, it's those little.
You have to sometimes bravely run away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brave,
Yeah.
Sir Robin.
Run away. What were we talking about? We were
The rabbit,
we were talking about
The
it the
holy
other
hand
day.
grenade.
Not that I bring up in every conversation or every meeting that we have. However,
But two out of two of us are
Yeah.
obsessed, so it's always going to be
exactly.
I mean, you did bring it up a couple of days ago.
I know. It's,
We were talking about something and we were all actively saying what a dreadful idea it was, and you were going, well, I always tend to look on the bright side of life.
there. Castle
And I'm just like,
oh, yeah,
oh,
no, but I brought
stop being so happy.
it up in text, but I also brought up
the holy hand grenade.
Holy Hand
Antioch.
Grenade Antioch the other day as well. I think I first need to watch. Anyhow. Now it's like completely different. Self-care.
So some of us watch Monty Python as self-care.
Yeah.
What do
did you
people do that aren't in the 60s?
Genuinely,
Yeah.
my bestie in uni we lived on corner rooms, so we could put post-its on each other's windows. It was great.
Okay, yeah.
Every morning would bring me a cup of tea, which was wonderful. Just knock on the door, leave the tea. And then if I was having a bad day, we wouldn't talk about it and it wouldn't be discussed. She would just arrive with the Holy Grail and we would sit and watch the Holy Grail and laugh, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
And
This is it, isn't it? Laughter is the one cure-all.
Genuinely, you can trick your brain. If you laugh, your brain will release all of your happy hormones because
Not
you
at a
trick
funeral, though. That's very uncouth.
Fair.
Although
But-
there has been occasions.
Because your brain catches up and goes, oh, I must have missed something.
Yes.
And puts you into the same emotional state as the people around you.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
It does. It is part of my. I'm sure we'll touch on this in a different podcast episode when we talk about dopamine. But like, I have a
Like
list.
the next one.
Yep. I have a list.
Hold that thought.
That one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have a list of things like films, TV. I was showing you earlier, like my my mood changes of what I can use to help me feel better, and I think that's something that everyone should do. Obviously,
Yes.
'cause, you know.
And if
There
I
is
have
an
the
app.
time,
There's an app called Virtual Hope Box, which will
Yes,
lead
we've
you
talked
through
about
that process.
Before, haven't we?
We have.
I'm just very impressed that you both have the time. Maybe it's because I
When-
just haven't made
I think
time.
because I've repeated it enough. Like, you have to write it all down to start with, and then eventually you kind of know the best things that will calm you down the quickest, and they're just the thing that you do, and it just becomes natural.
So I'll be honest here. My way of dealing with a meltdown is to get rid of the people that cause the meltdown.
Well, that's a very
Okay,
good
do you have
first
something to
step.
confess? That's really cool, please.
but that is my go-to.
But
yeah.
so do you notice?
Not in a mafia way.
With a shovel,
No.
lead piping, and the rope, and the
I don't have that power. No.
Do you notice when you're at like a 7?
No, but
Or
other
do you
people
just
do.
suddenly go, shit, I'm having a meltdown?
No,
Yeah.
no. If I've disagreed with somebody vehemently and I haven't seen their way of doing it, I literally just go, well, the only way this is going to work is if I go with my sort of bag of toys over here back to my house and you stay where you are, and then hopefully in a week or in a day you'll have come to a different conclusion and I'll be right. Which never happens, but it's the way of, because although I think I'm right all the time, I'm actually not.
So that's retroactive
And that's
self-care.
infuriating. Yeah, well, I think for me it's very indicative of not being able to switch off. So for me, the act of writing down why, which is what you described, writing down why you're having a meltdown and the causes of, and then the remedies to, is a way of going, right, I need to switch this off in order to get to there. And I think my biggest problem is that, and we've said it in podcasts, you can go back and watch my continuous meltdown of not being able to switch off. And that for me is the enjoyment thing, not being able to go, that's work or voluntary or whatever, over there, that's fine. And now, you can switch off and watch something you like and be completely at one with your mind.
Yeah.
And then, put in that energy level to get back to where you should be in order to start the day and go back into whatever you're doing as an employee or an entrepreneur and go, okay, I have the energy today, I will do it.
Do you do any journaling?
No.
I would recommend it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
act of writing or typing or dictating or whatever is like writing is good as well because it's rhythmical, and that's for anything that you do is rhythmical, calms your nervous system, your brainstem. But the act of writing wakes up your thinking brain, which takes you out of your trauma brain, and so that will help to bring your activation down.
I'd also recommend doodling.
Yes.
I cannot draw at all. If I'm not good at it,
Neither
I don't
can
bother.
age one. Like
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Who chooses
Age
what's
3
good?
though.
I
Like
just
it.
want to be. I only do things that I'm very good at.
But I think it's quite a good thing
That's
to.
very stressful.
Yeah, because as well, like it's all you then will never learn, and it's
No.
less.
And like
it's
I've just
exciting.
painted most of my kitchen in chalk paint, and I'm now drawing a tree on the
Oh,
back of
no.
my fridge door. Not the actual fridge. I have a cupboard that the fridge lives in.
That's my idea of
Funny
hell.
landlords.
You know, and I started it, and I was like, but what if it's not good?
No, decorators
And then
out
I
there,
look at it,
yeah.
and I'm like, it looks like a tree.
No.
And that's my aim. And I'm like, who
Yeah.
cares?
I love that for you, but my way of dealing with it is, hello, Mr. Decorator or Mrs. Decorator. Here is my money. Here's what I want
But
my
I
house to
think
look
it-
like. I'm gonna go and have a coffee. I'll see you
it's
soon.
quite good though, as like a form of self care. There's a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's
amazing.
really good, and she writes in it how everyone should start their morning by writing 3 pages of just conscious thought. And it can be-
750 words is the sweet spot, which is about that. That's why.
I find my hand hurts, so I do about a page. But I also
It also
I've-
depends on the size of your handwriting.
Yeah, make it even bigger. Today,
But
was
also,
rubbish.
like, we don't write anymore.
No.
Like,
It's
I'm
just
the
weird.
same. Like, physically
Yeah.
writing
It does.
hurts.
It's a pain, but it's also either like just having.
But I
that
quite like
conscious
the
thought.
analog of it as well.
Yeah, and it not being. You don't have to have internet. You don't have to have battery. You can just.
You don't have to have internet
You know.
or be
plonky
connected
plonk.
in any way.
Not
It is
always
weird though.
done.
Like, I didn't have internet for 3 days after the storm, and it was strange. I had to like drive out.
I was so upset. No, I was so upset. I'm very lucky, but I thought I'm going to just eat before the power goes off and get myself all sorted so I can go to
just
bed.
in case.
Yeah.
And the power didn't go off.
Excellent.
There wasn't anything, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What a letdown! I've prepared for the storm,
Yeah,
and the storm
that's the
hasn't."
same.
What?
But
I
that's the
even
thing.
put water in hot
If
flask.
your preparation is self care, it's always good.
Yeah.
Oh no! But I was like, "I'm going to bed. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to get this energy back." Nothing happened. I was absolutely fine.
But
And
did you
then-
still feel energized in the morning?
No.
But was there more trees there?
No. But I think, it's. I almost had a meltdown. No.
But
Because,
I think that's the thing, like you say,
Yeah.
that there's value in recognizing what might be challenging. So you're like there might not be any power, and then so you put steps in so that if that happens, it's easier. That's all a go ahead is really,
Yeah.
and then you can say, like that will mean that you need less self care afterwards. So
maybe
like
I'm
if you
just-
give
yeah.
yourself maybe a couple of hours the day before something, you might then only need like the morning of the next day off instead of the whole
Yeah.
of the next day off, because you're coming in at higher activation, and it's cumulative as well. So like if you're going into a very activated situation, even if it's like going to watch a sports game or something, that's a very activated situation. If you're coming in over like a 5 or a 6,
Yeah.
that can tip you, it can fill your sink.
We're back to sink again.
Sorry.
No, I like this. It'll be a bathtub by the time we finish.
But yes, you have to think about it. And then like when especially relationally as well, which I
yeah.
think is when a lot of us struggle, if you're both coming in at an 8, that system is way out of its window of tolerance, and that's going to not
Yeah.
end very well.
Yeah.
So I have because we've almost got an hour out of meltdowns and how to deal
And we
with
were supposed
said-
to have a break as well.
said
We
meltdowns.
did.
I know.
We got very into that.
We
Yeah.
did. We got very. But just because it's in my mind, I'm going to ask the question, which is, does a meltdown constitute as being signed off? Like how
Not necessarily. Burnout does.
if I
I think
employ somebody and I
Yeah.
know that they have the ability to have if I own a shop and I'm front if I'm Amelia, I mean things would have to change for me to become Amelia.
Back in the day.
Yeah, but if I'm not sure Amelia want to be me. But if I was Amelia and I was front of house at a shop and I was running the shop and I knew at any point any of the employees that as a duty of care, any of the employees that work at my shop could have a meltdown.
Which actually,
what do I
anyone
do?
could, because
Yeah.
one of those employees could have had, 2 people in their family die recently. You don't know.
Yeah, it's not even that. Like when I had a shop and I was manager, we did have people who were signed off, and they weren't in for about a month, and they had to be off for their mental health. And I don't know if
But they wouldn't be paid.
They had a
Not
doctor's note,
necessarily,
and so they
depends
were
who you
paid
work
for a
for.
little bit. I can't speak if I don't think they're neurodivergent. They could be as potential there,
But yeah, I mean,
anyone
so
can.
yeah, if you are overwhelmed, which if you don't have a valve for that overwhelm, that will become a meltdown. And that could happen on, like, say you have a really, really busy day at work. You might go home and have a meltdown. And that would be perfectly reasonable. And then as long as you put that recovery in and have a weekend, and you can then go in on Monday and be like, I don't feel like I'm going to have a meltdown today. If that happens a lot, and you get to the point where every morning before work you're like, I'm definitely going to have a meltdown because I'm already at 7 and nothing is happening, that's when you get signed off.
But what do we do as an employer though?
I also say it's not just about employees. I've had customers have full meltdowns.
I don't care about customers.
100%.
Do not care.
Scream at me.
No, don't care.
And it's, that then causes me to then have a meltdown because I'm being screamed at because 2 handmade coasters.
I think so like when I was at teacher uni, what they taught us, which I think applies to everybody and not just children, is if someone is having a meltdown, they cannot reason, they cannot listen to logic. Yeah. They just have to ride out that feeling. Yeah. So you have to be compassionate to that, and it's like find something. So that we used to have the adult colouring books, and it'd be like, go outside, do some colouring. When you feel better, come back in, and then we'll talk about it. If you try and talk about it in the moment of meltdown, it's not going to happen. It's going to make it worse. There's nothing I hate more than when I'm having a meltdown and someone's like, what is wrong with you?
Oh, are you okay?
I was like, I cannot tell you right now. I'm literally non-verbal. So it's giving that space and making it acceptable and modelling as well, I just need a minute. Yeah. Or I just need to go outside for a second, or I just need to concentrate on this for 5 minutes and then I will come and talk to you.
That's when the communication comes
so
in.
It's giving yourself that grace and also giving other people that grace too, and that space to notice their canaries, manage where they are, but then also recover if they have had a meltdown because there's been a run of customers or whatever.
Okay. Well, I think we've answered the employer meltdown question. You've yes, I think that was. As I've said many times when I do this, it wasn't necessarily the conversation I thought we'd have. I didn't think we'd get an hour out of it. I would have thought maybe a 15-minute and then one of us has a meltdown, but we're obviously too exhausted to
it's
just
like those little cars, you put them back and
and actually, I mean, with full respect to both of you, it didn't turn out as a sort of here are 3 people talking about meltdowns. It was structured. So I mean, we can sign this one off to the history books, and if I guess putting my sort of James hat on, if you are employing anybody that is
or yourself,
or you, ND or not, or it could be
nice
you or somebody
else.
Just give people time, space, and an adult colouring book,
and chat about it. Just talk
100%,
about it.
but not in front of customers.
Oh, I've had that as well.
Just
the world of retail.
It doesn't fit.
Trauma session.
But no, I think it's very important. I think you've got to, if you understand your employees or those that work around you, your product will be far better because you know the limits of other people,
and also have the faith in other people understanding themselves and ask for that information. so that you can be there for them. There you go.
And on that
Fabulous.
bombshell, I think we can, we can lovingly
Boom.
talk about what is the next on next
No,
week's show.
no.
I've got to tune in to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't even know at this point. This is.
I know.
Oh,
There will
okay.
be no Easter eggs in this.
Oh,
But it's going to be
okay.
good.
I
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah.
It'll be
This is
fabulous.
it.
So if you've made it to the end of an hour and 4 minutes talking about meltdowns, well done. Thank you.
Thanks.
We barely have.
Please do take care.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
remember to check in with where you are after this discussion.
Absolutely.
And use your cope ahead and
Yes.
self-care methods.
And watch Monty Python.
Yeah, yeah,
I
totally.
think that's
if
the
you
biggest
haven't seen them
takeaway.
all, watch them now. Like, just go and
Yeah.
do that.
That is the biggest
And the
takeaway
Holy
of
Grail
this
is
entire
first.
episode.
Yeah.
Monty Python Mondays. Like, that's just.
I think that's a good thing that we should do.
Let's do it. We should do watch parties.
Yeah.
Do you know?
This is now just a brainstorm.
This is
Yeah.
this is
Throwing
this is
things
what
in the
happens. This is the adrenaline at the end of a meltdown. But
This is the Patreon for free. Here
Yes.
it is.
Yeah.
when we first started
When
this,
we launch the Patreon,
Yeah.
if you want more of this, let us know.
we genuinely
Need to
like
actually
this was almost
do
in the
that.
business plan where we were like, you can see us have a meltdown for more money. We're
No.
being very restrained.
That's mildly exploitative. Let's not.
I know, yeah. Just my meltdowns. I
How
just,
much money?
yeah, I just wanted to be
This isn't
reimbursed.
OnlyFans.
Only melts. Yeah, I know. Anyway.
Get a lot of ice cream that time.
I know, just a candle just burning slowly. Yeah, so
Anyhow.
we will love you and leave you until next week's show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to the We Speak Tangent podcast, brought to you by the Neurodivergent Entrepreneurs Network in partnership with South of Scotland Enterprise.